Pure air. Good thinking. Mixture is the right answer. What is oil? Sharp thinking. Liquid is the right choice. Raisin bran? Right choice. Mixture is the best answer. Arc equal to 98. Well done. Human body is the right choice. Cannot flow? Smart move. Solid is an accurate answer. Soccer ball. You got it. Your choice, solid, is right. Solid to gas. Right again. Sublimation is a valid answer. Your desk is smart pick. Rigid is the correct choice. Motion energy. Nice selection. Kinetic energy is the correct and valid answer. Gas to liquid. Correct. Condensation is the right answer. Simply 50-20? Correct response. 3pi4 is the most accurate answer. Carbon dioxide? Clear logic. Your choice compound is sound and 100% true. Define a liquid. You're right. Definite volume. No shape is the correct answer. Acid resistance. Excellent choice. Chemical property is the right answer. Liquid to solid. On track. Freezing is the correct answer. Energy in motion. Excellent. Kinetic energy is a brilliant choice. What is melting? Perfect. Solid to a liquid is the correct choice. Solids have dash. Nicely done. A definite shape is a solid answer. Does butter melt? Valid point. Yes, it's true. Which is a solid? Great job. Glass is the accurate answer. Charge on a proton. Well reasoned. Positive is the correct choice. Examples of matter. Solid response. Both is a valid choice. How is gas defined? Strong choice. No shape, no volume is the right answer. Gas particles have. Good job. Your answer very weak bonds works well here. Definition of plasma. Great thinking. Ionized neon gas is the right choice. What is this matter? You chose gas, and it is correct. A metallic substance. Bravo, Mg is the answer. Has a definite shape. Nice work. You chose solid, and it is correct. Component of ice cube. Well picked. Water is the correct answer. This is an example of. Exactly. Evaporation makes sense, and it is right choice. Solids diffuses fast. Smart pick. False is the correct choice. Air is made up of dash. Correct response. Many types of gases is the most accurate answer. Particles only vibrate. Excellent choice. Solid is the right answer. Which one is a liquid? Nicely done. Oil is a solid answer. Dash has a fixed shape. Well reasoned. Solid is the correct choice. Chocolate chip cookies? Well done. Mixture is the right choice. Water in solid form is clear logic. Your choice ice is sound and 100% true. Who discovered neutron? You got it. Your choice, James Chadwick, is right. Clouds are formed when? Perfect. Water evaporates is the correct choice. Particles move quickest? Right again. Gas is a valid answer. Dash equals mass volume. Great thinking. Density is the right choice. Cooking an egg is a dash. You chose irreversible. And it is correct. Particles close together. Correct. Solid is the right answer. It can flow except dash. Sharp thinking. Solid is the right choice. Gases have a high dash. Good thinking. Speed is the right answer. The particles in No2 are strong choice. Molecules is the right answer. Has an indefinite volume. Well picked. Gas is the correct answer. What causes ice to melt? You're right. Heat is the correct answer. Particles in a solid are. Great job. Barely moving at all is the accurate answer. Dash or dash temperatures? Smart move. Increasing or decreasing is an accurate answer. Which charge is positive? Right choice. Proton is the best answer. How do gas molecules move? Exactly. Constantly and randomly makes sense. And it is right choice. What are stars made out of? Valid point. Plasma is true. What state of matter is Z? Nice selection. Gas is the correct and valid answer. Graphite is the example of. On track. Giant covalent solids is the correct answer. What do you mean by matter? Nice work. You chose everything and it is correct. Particles vibrate in place. Good job. Your answer solid works well here. Toothpaste is very viscous. Solid response. True is a valid choice. The basic unit of matter is. Excellent. An atom is a brilliant choice. Particles move fastest in a. Bravo. Gas is the answer. Choose the state of matter. Great job. Solid is the accurate answer. The hottest candle flame is. Solid response. Plasma is a valid choice. The particles move quickly. Well done. Solid is the right choice. Force applied per unit area. Exactly. Pressure makes sense and it is right choice. Which of these is a mixture? Perfect. Laundry detergent is the correct choice. How much is 944 median atom? Nice selection. 1.24 am is the correct and valid answer. Freezing means a change from. On track, liquid to solid is the correct answer. The water we drink is a dash. Excellent. Liquid is a brilliant choice. All matter is made up of dash. Clear logic. Your choice atoms is sound and 100% true. Oxygen is an example for dash. Sharp thinking. Gas is the right choice. Color describes how something. Right again. Looks is a valid answer. When a liquid turns to a gas. Valid point. Evaporation is true. The boiling point of water is. Nicely done. 100 degrees Celsius is a solid answer. When gas changes into plasma. Correct. Ionization is the right answer. Dry ice is an example of dash. Smart pick. Sublimation is the correct choice. What is water's melting point? Strong choice. 0 degrees C is the right answer. What is an example of a solid? Correct response. Ice is the most accurate answer. Granite is an example for dash. You chose igneous rock, and it is correct. Oil and vinegar salad dressing. Bravo, heterogeneous is the answer. What are the units for volume? Well reasoned. CM3 or M3 is the correct choice. What process contains heating? Right choice. Melting is the best answer. How much matter an object has? Great thinking. Mass is the right choice. Changing from a solid to a gas. Nice work. You chose sublimation, and it is correct. Contains only one kind of atom. Good job. Your answer element works well here. How states of matter are there? Good thinking. 3 is the right answer. Variable shape, constant volume. Well picked. Liquid is the correct answer. We need our 5 senses to dash. Excellent choice. Observe the world is the right answer. Which one is a physical change? Smart move. Evaporation and sublimation is an accurate answer. Vaporization is the change from. You got it. Your choice liquid to gas is right, which is not a part of an atom. You're right. Element is the correct answer. Water as a solid is called dash. You're right. Ice is the correct answer. A solid substance can be melted. Nicely done. By applying heat is a solid answer, which is an example of a liquid. Great thinking. Milk is the right choice. When ice turns into liquid water. Smart pick. Melting is the correct choice. Helium is an example of an. Excellent choice. Element is the right answer. Particles are loosely connected. Solid response. Liquid is a valid choice. When a gas cools, it turns into a. You got it. Your choice liquid is right. Has a definite shape and volume. Valid point. Solid is true. What charge does a neutron have? Right choice. No charge is the best answer. What does Boyle's law relate to? On track. Pressure and volume is the correct answer. There are dash states of matter. You chose 3, and it is correct. A carrot is an example of a dash. Exactly. Solid makes sense and it is right choice.
Transition from a liquid to a gas.
Good thinking. Evaporation is the right answer.
What does the nucleus consist of? Clear logic. Your choice protons plus neutrons is sound and 100% true.
Wax in a lit candle will do this.
Perfect. Melt is the correct choice.
Changes from a solid to a liquid.
Right again.
Melting is a valid answer. How is plasma different from gas?
Well picked. Carries an electrical charge is the correct answer.
What is a gas that we breathe in?
Nice selection. Oxygen is the correct and valid answer. Matter has dash and occupies dash. Strong choice. Weight, space is the right answer. Molecules are packed very loosely. Nice work. You chose gas and it is correct. Which is the solid state of water? Well reasoned. Ice is the correct choice. A substance that flows is called a... Great job. Liquid is the accurate answer. What are all materials made up of? Sharp thinking. Particles is the right choice. What type of matter is carbon? Bravo, element is the answer. Which state of matter is pictured? Correct response. Solid is the most accurate answer. A liquid changes into a gas dash. Smart move. Boiling is an accurate answer. What happens when solid is heated? Good job. Your answer, it turns into liquid, works well here. Which of the following is a solid? Correct. Chair is the right answer. This state is easily compressible. Well done. Gas is the right choice. Which state of matter flows easily? Excellent. Liquid is a brilliant choice. What is the charge of a sodium ion? You got it. Your choice +1 is right. What is the fourth state of matter? Excellent choice. Plasma is the right answer. Vapor pressure can be influenced by... Correct response. Both is the most accurate answer. What is the ability to burn called? Smart pick. Flammability is the correct choice. When a gas turns straight to solid? Great thinking. Deposition is the right choice. Vaporization includes dash and dash. Strong choice. Evaporation and boiling is the right answer. Particles move very fast all around. Smart move. Gas is an accurate answer. Particles slide past each other. Solid response. Liquid is a valid choice. Boiling is the change of state from. Excellent. Liquid to gas is a brilliant choice. An example of an amorphous solid is... You chose glass, and it is correct. When dry ice becomes smaller, it is... Correct. Sublimating is the right answer. What is the freezing point of water? Sharp thinking. Zach C is the right choice. This state of matter is not visible. Great job. Gas is the accurate answer. Kinetic energy is the energy of dash. Valid point. Motion is true. At room temperature, most metals are.
Good thinking. Solid is the right answer.
How many significant figures? 1000 mel.
Well picked. 1 is the correct answer. It takes the shape of the container. Right choice. Liquid is the best answer. Changing a gas to a liquid is called.
You're right. Condensation is the correct answer. Increase in temp. On track. Increase in pressure is the correct answer. This state of matter is the densest. Right again. Soil is a valid answer. What is anything that takes up space? Good job. Your answer matter works well here. What are the 3 states of matter? Well reasoned. Solid, liquid, gas is the correct choice. Kinetic energy of a gas depends upon. Clear logic. Your choice. None of these is sound and 100% true. What does a virus have on the inside? Bravo. Dean or Rana is the answer. State with the highest thermal energy. Exactly. Jas makes sense, and it is right choice. To know if the mango is sweet or sour. Perfect. Tongue is the correct choice. Ironing a shirt is an example of dash. Well done. Conduction is the right choice. In covalent bonds, electrons are dash. Nicely done. Shared is a solid answer. Definite shape with a definite volume. Nice work. You chose solid, and it is correct. Which particles have the most energy? Nice selection. Gas is the correct and valid answer. When candle wax melts, it changes from. Good job. Your answer solid to liquid works well here. Atoms of a dash move around the most. Nicely done. Gas is a solid answer. Solid particles have the dash energy. Right choice. Least is the best answer. How can you remove energy from matter? Strong choice. Lower its temperature is the right answer. What electric charge do neutrons have? Right again. Neutral is a valid answer. What is the biggest group on the table? Excellent choice. Metals is the right answer. The dash is the thing being dissolved. Bravo. Solute is the answer. Change of state from a gas to a liquid. Sharp thinking. Condensation is the right choice. What percentage of your body is water? Nice selection. 60% is the correct and valid answer. When a metal starts to rust, that is a solid response. Chemical change is a valid choice. Changing a liquid to a solid is called. On track. Freezing is the correct answer. What makes particles of a matter move? Clear logic. Your choice heat energy is sound and 100% true. 2 samples of gold must have the same. Exactly. Density makes sense and it is right choice. Which item names matter in a gas state?
Smart pick. Steam is the correct choice.
What state of matter is most organized?
Correct. Solid is the right answer.
Energy of motion is called dash energy. Well done. Kinetic is the right choice. Chopping wood results in a dash change.
Great thinking. Physical is the right choice. This is a solid. It is a school supply. Good thinking. Eraser is the right answer.
Freezing water results in a dash change.
You're right. Physical is the correct answer.
Type of bond where electrons are shared. Valid point.
Covalent bonds is true. Commonly conducted to test a hypothesis.
Correct response. Experiment is the most accurate answer.
Wood, paper, table are examples of dash.
You chose soil, and it is correct. Choose the particle that has no charge.
Great job. Neutron is the accurate answer.
What is the state of matter of the sun? Well reasoned. Plasma is the correct choice. Definite volume, but not definite shape. Excellent. Liquid is a brilliant choice. What process changes a gas to a liquid? Nice work. You chose condensation, and it is correct. Mixtures can be separated by dash means. You got it. Your choice physical is right. Color, shape, and size are examples of a. Perfect. Physical property is the correct choice. What has a definite volume but no shape?
Well picked. Liquid is the correct answer.
Which two phases changes are exothermic?
Smart move. Freezing, condensation is an accurate answer.
Name a state of matter with fixed shape.
On track. Solid is the correct answer.
A magnet pushes or pulls objects made of. You chose iron, and it is correct. When water freezes, it changes from dash. You got it? Your choice liquid to solid is right. What is the formula to calculate density? Valid point. Mass volume is true. Matter exists in three states. They are. You're right. Solid, liquid, and gas is the correct answer. All of the following are elements except.
Smart pick. Water is the correct choice.
A characteristic of matter is called dash.
Correct response. Property is the most accurate answer.
Subatomic particle with a positive charge. Nice work. You chose proton, and it is correct. Which of the following is not an element? Nice selection. Water is the correct and valid answer. Which of the following is not a compound? Well picked. Cl is the correct answer. The amount of matter in a given space is.
Sharp thinking. Density is the right choice.
When sugar is dissolved in water, it is air. Nicely done. Physical change is a solid answer. As pressure decreases, boiling point dash. Great job. Decreases is the accurate answer. The measurement of force per area is dash. Perfect. Pressure is the correct choice. The smallest unit of a compound is a dash. Excellent choice. Molecule is the right answer.
The phase change from liquid to solid is. Right again. Freezing is a valid answer. Which process is the opposite of melting? Clear logic. Your choice freezing is sound and 100% true. Which solid has a definite melting point? Smart move. Crystalline is an accurate answer.
Matter is anything that has mass and dash. Strong choice. Takes up space is the right answer.
Which of these is an example of a mixture?
Well reasoned. A salad is the correct choice.
When a substance is heated, particles will. Good thinking. Move further apart is the right answer. Which one of the processes is losing heat? Solid response. Freezing is a valid choice. When a substance goes from liquid to a gas.
Bravo. Vaporization is the answer. The energy an object has due to its motion.
Great thinking. Kinetic energy is the right choice. What electrical charge does a proton have? Right choice. +1 is the best answer.
Which would have the lowest boiling point? Exactly 750 millig makes sense, and it is right choice. A type of matter that fills its container.
Good job. Your answer, gas, works well here.
The particles shown are moving like a dash.
Well done. Gas is the right choice.
What is it called when water turns to ice?
Excellent. Freezing is a brilliant choice.
Which of these liquids has high viscosity? Correct. Syrup is the right answer.
What was the story we read today based on? You're right. Oblek is the correct answer.
Which state of matter has no fixed volume?
Well done. Gas is the right choice.
This state of matter is void of all energy.
Nice selection. Bose-Einstein condensate is the correct and valid answer. Which one is the product of neutralization? Strong choice. Salt is the right answer.
The formula for calculating density is dash.
Exactly. Mass divided by volume makes sense, and it is right choice. Dry ice is an example of what phase change?
Right choice. Sublimation is the best answer.
When a gas changes to a liquid, it is called.
Great thinking. Condensation is the right choice.
What is the easiest example of sublimation? Good thinking. Dry ice is the right answer.
Occurs when a liquid is changed into a gas.
Nicely done. Vaporization is a solid answer. Dash have a fixed volume and a fixed shape. Good job. Your answer, solids, works well here. What property allows bugs to walk on water? Smart pick. Surface tension is the correct choice. As temperature of a gas decreases, pressure. Well picked. Decreases is the correct answer. A dash takes up the shape of its container. Sharp thinking. Liquid is the right choice.
In which phase change does energy decrease? Excellent choice. Condensation is the right answer.
Does melting gain energy or release energy? Solid response. Gain is a valid choice.
The phase opposite phase of melting is dash.
Right again. Freezing is a valid answer.
What is the example of the physical change? Correct. Pencil breaking is the right answer. What is the name of the gas state of water?
Bravo. Water vapor is the answer.
Which of the following results in a mixture?
Smart move. Dissolving salt is an accurate answer.
The change in state from a solid to a liquid.
Correct response. Melting is the most accurate answer.
The change of state from a liquid to a gas is.
Nice work. You chose evaporation, and it is correct.
Matter that has no definite shape or volume.
Excellent. Gas is a brilliant choice.
The main cause of any change of state is the.
Well reasoned. Temperature is the correct choice.
What phase change occurs from gas to liquid? Clear logic. Your choice condensation is sound and 100% true. When heat is removed, a gas becomes a liquid.
Great job. Condensation is the accurate answer.
A liquid's resistance to flow is called dash.
Perfect. Viscosity is the correct choice.
Water is an example of what state of matter?
Valid point. Liquid is true.
The amount of space that an object takes up.
You chose volume, and it is correct.
The substance in which a solute is dissolved.
You got it. Your choice solvent is right.
When we boil water, the water changes to dash.
On track. Vapor is the correct answer.
A gas changes into a liquid when it is dash.
Right again. Cooled is a valid answer.
This is the part of a solution that dissolves.
Solid response. Solute is a valid choice.
Thermal energy always moves from dash to dash.
Clear logic. Your choice hot to cold is sound and 100% true.
Occurs when a solid is changed into a liquid.
Excellent. Melting is a brilliant choice.
What do you need to turn a liquid into a gas?
Nicely done. Heat is a solid answer.
Matter is made of small particles called dash.
Excellent choice. Atoms is the right answer.
Plasma occurs at extremely dash temperatures.
Well reasoned. High is the correct choice.
What state of matter is shown in the picture?
Smart pick. Liquid is the correct choice.
Water, tea, and juice are all examples of dash.
Great thinking. Liquids is the right choice.
Dash is the resistance of the liquid to flow.
Great job. Viscosity is the accurate answer.
Which stage of the water cycle is labeled a?
Well picked. Evaporation is the correct answer.
An example of gas dissolved in liquid is dash.
You're right. Carbonated drinks is the correct answer.
Sugar dash in water to make a clear solution.
Nice selection. Dissolves is the correct and valid answer.
The amount of matter in something is its dash. On track. Mass is the correct answer. Select all of these that keep their own shape. Strong choice. Solid is the right answer. Measure of average kinetic energy of particles. Perfect. Thermal energy is the correct choice. The higher the average kinetic energy, the dash. Smart move. The higher the temperature is an accurate answer. Which of the following is a chemical property? Valid point. Reactivity is true. The states of dash are liquid, gas, and solid. Correct. Matter is the right answer. When you cool a liquid, it changes into a dash. Right choice. Solid is the best answer. Which of these processes is always exothermic? Good job. Your answer burning works well here. What happens to the particles when I add heat? Sharp thinking. The particles get faster is the right choice. Which of these has the least amount of energy? Nice work. You chose particles in a solid and it is correct. Which is an example of an observable property? Bravo. Material is the answer. According to the count, particles of matter dash. Well done. Are in constant motion is the right choice. Gases outward push on the walls of a container. Good thinking. Pressure is the right answer. This type of solid has very organized particles. Exactly. Crystalline makes sense and it is right choice. The smallest part of an element is known as the... You got it? Your choice atom is right. Which of the following are examples of liquids? You chose shampoo and oil, and it is correct. When solid changes into a gas, it is called dash. Correct response. Sublimation is the most accurate answer. What phase change is a solid going to a liquid? Clear logic. Your choice, melting, is sound and 100% true. In which part of the water cycle do clouds form? Great job. Evaporation is the accurate answer. The process by which a gas changes into a liquid. Good thinking. Condensation is the right answer. Which of these is a result of a chemical change? Bravo. A new substance is the answer. Isotopes are elements with a different amount of. Smart pick. Neutrons is the correct choice. A temperature increase causes the particles dash. Right again. Move faster is a valid answer. When a solid turns to a liquid, it's called dash. Well reasoned. Melting is the correct choice. Has neither a definite shape nor definite volume. Nice work. You chose gas and it is correct. Which of the following is not a state of matter? Right choice. Solution is the best answer. When liquid water evaporates, it turns into dash. Great thinking. Water vapor is the right choice. Gases and liquids both have the property of dash. Strong choice. Indefinite shape is the right answer. What is a substance that does conduct heat well? Correct. conductor is the right answer. In a sea breeze, the air is warmer above the dash. Well picked. Land is the correct answer.
A hot hand pack is an example of a dash reaction.
Well done. Exothermic is the right choice.
Oxygen is a gas produced by dash and used by dash.
Valid point. Plants and animals is true.
When a substance changes from a solid to a liquid.
Perfect. Melting is the correct choice.
Particles in a dash move freely past one another. On track. Liquid is the correct answer.
When an ice cube melts, a dash is becoming a dash.
You're right. Solid liquid is the correct answer. Has an indefinite shape and an indefinite volume. You got it. Your choice gas is right.
All solids, liquids, and gases are made up of dash.
Excellent choice. Particles is the right answer. What is %os character in sp3 hybrid orbitals?
Smart move. 25% is an accurate answer.
Particles are close together and vibrate slightly. Nice selection. Solid is the correct and valid answer. A cup of iron filings and sand is an example of a
Sharp thinking. Mixture is the right choice.
molecules are closest together when they are dash.
Solid response. Solid is a valid choice.
If you heat a liquid, it might change into a dash. Good job. Your answer, gas, works well here. In this process, a gas is converted into a liquid. You chose condensation, and it is correct. The addition of heat to ice cream will cause dash.
Excellent. Melting is a brilliant choice.
Matter changing from a gas to a liquid is called
Correct response. Condensation is the most accurate answer.
solid becomes gas without first changing to liquid. Nicely done. Sublimation is a solid answer. Particles have a medium amount of kinetic energy.
Exactly. Liquid makes sense, and it is right choice.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format?
Well reasoned. Contact Narayan Changda is the correct choice.